Good afternoon and welcome back to K24. This is Daily Brief and my name is Mungala Mbuvi. I'm joined by Greenpeace Africa, and who else to have this conversation with than the food campaigner? That's a very interesting title for someone to have. But Claire Nasike, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me to the show today.
Before I even ask you what a food campaigner is all about, Greenpeace and Harvest Agriculture, how do you guys intertwine all this together?
Well, Greenpeace Africa is an environmental campaigning organization, and for Bitter Harvest, we are looking at some of the challenges that are facing the environment through the agricultural sector, and our main entry point was the chemical pesticides that are used in food production. Yes. All
right, so Greenpeace and Harvest, that's how you guys are connected, but what is the primary function of Greenpeace Africa? Advocating for peace?
No. It is an environmental campaigning organization.
Or 100% environment?
Yes.
Wow.
So even with Bitter Harvest, we are looking at what are the environmental impacts of the chemical pesticides aside from food safety.
All right.
Yes.
So food campaigner. You are a food campaigner. You like the chief food campaigner. Then we have other food campaigners within Greenpeace Africa?
We have campaigners in Greenpeace Africa, but they have different specialities. Right. Each campaigner has their own area of expertise. I am an agroecologist by profession, and hence my work as a food campaigner at Greenpeace Africa.
All right. So you, let's talk about now Bitter Harvest, which is a documentary that aired on Saturday. What was that campaign all about? What was the documentary all about? What was the message that was supposed to come out of this particular documentary?
Great. For the past 3 years, Greenpeace Africa has been working on a campaign on food safety and food security. And this campaign, we called it Food for Life. So this campaign was looking at what are some of the alternative ways of growing food and what is the harm of chemical pesticides in food production, as well as the environment. So when Bitter Harvest came in, it came in to look at how are Kenyan farmers using chemical pesticides that have been banned for use in other countries, and some of which are actually toxic. So from the documentary, you see that some farmers are using these chemicals. They don't have appropriate PPE, personal protective equipment. They are interacting with chemicals that are harmful. So we're just not talking about chemicals that are harmful. Some of these chemicals are carcinogenic. They have the capacity to cause cancer. They have the capacity to affect the nervous system, the hormonal systems, and yet they're being used in food production in Kenya. Okay. And it does not just end there. It also shows what are some of the sustainable ways in which we can grow food. From the documentary, we see a farmer, an organic farmer from Machakos, Kenya, who grows food using organic ways. So it's something that is possible for Kenyans to do and to move away from chemical pesticides that are harmful. Unfortunately,
I never got to watch the documentary, but from my agriculture back in primary school and high school, I remember that a lot of these, these fertilizers that we use, some of them are even handed out by the government. Now, is it because there wasn't enough research done when they were being given to the farmers, or this is something that we knew from kitambo, but tukasema kaa mbaya mbaya?
I think, in my opinion, is that we don't have an evaluation program, or rather a re-evaluation program of the products that we introduce into the Kenyan market, particularly the agricultural products. So you find that some of the chemical pesticides, and I'm going to talk about also chemical fertilizers and chemical pesticides, which we call as agrochemicals. Some of them have been proven to cause cancer from various countries. Some of the fertilizers, remember we had a scandal in Kenya where the fertilizer sold in Kenya had mercury?
Yes.
Yeah, so it points to the lack of the re-evaluation by the relevant agencies of the current products in the Kenyan market.
Who's producing these products? Because I am almost certain we produce some of the fertilizers ourselves. Some of them we do import. Is it, and as much as you've said there is no way of checking the viability of these particular products within the country, but who is in charge? Who can we say that person ABCD or agency ABCD is in charge of ensuring that whatever we put in our farms is actually fit for human consumption?
In Kenya currently, the organization, rather the government agency responsible for that is the Pest Control Products Board. So the Pest Control Products Board has been mandated by the Kenyan government to make sure that the products that are registered in Kenya are safe for use, and they actually show that there's proof that these products are safe for use from their country of origin. So most of the agrochemicals that we use, like the chemical pesticides that we use, are not manufactured in Kenya. You find that some of them are imported from China, most of them are, some of them are from the European Union. So from those countries, by the time they get here, it is the work of the Pest Control Products Board to make sure that the products that are imported for agricultural production actually meet the safety requirements.
What about Kenya Bureau of Standards? Aren't they playing anything? Do they not have a responsibility to just make sure that these products are actually used in the way that they're supposed to be used? Why would they allow something to come into the country knowingly that it is going to spray our tomatoes or our potatoes and still let it go through?
They also have a responsibility, but the main responsibility lies with PCPB, the Pest Control Products Board, because under Chapter 346, this is of the Pest Control Products Act, it is the PCPB that is responsible for making sure that all the products that are used in Kenya are safe. But then also PCPB has there's a loophole when it comes to that act, in the sense that they only look at the purity and the efficacy. So the efficacy is how effective is this product in controlling certain pests and diseases. But they do not look at the environmental and the human impacts this product has, which are the most essential. Because if you're just looking at how effective is this product, but you're not looking at the effects of it on human health and the environment, then there's a big problem.
What about the products themselves coming from those countries? You've mentioned China, some parts of Europe. You want to tell me that those chemicals there are being used and they're safe, they're okay with them?
Unfortunately, those chemicals, or these pesticides, and we call them active ingredients. The active ingredients is the component within that chemical pesticide that kills the pest or controls the diseases. So you find that these active ingredients are actually banned in their country of origin.
What? So they are specifically produced for Africa?
So they are banned for use in those European countries based on the environmental and health impacts. And not just environmental and health impacts. You find that some of them go to an extent of killing bees, which we know are essential in food production.
For pollination.
Yes, exactly that. But these countries are based in the European Union, but they still continue to export their products to the let's say African market, and particularly in Kenya. So you find that there are a certain number of products that are used in European Union, but they're banned. They're not used in European Union. They're banned actually. You can use them in food production, but they're used in Kenya.
So before we get to the alternative farming methods, you want to tell me that some of these countries knowingly produce products they know are carcinogenic, poisonous to the body, poisonous to even some plants, but they produce them knowingly that they are giving them to another country that might suffer the consequences of using these products?
It's all about profit for them. Most of these companies that make these chemical products, what they care about is selling these products. It's not about the effect that they're having on you. For example, if we know that atrazine or permethrin, which are some of the active ingredients that are toxic, and carbendazim, which are toxic, they are banned for use in those European countries. If you go to the European database and you key in carbendazim or you key in permethrin, you will find that they've said banned. It's restricted for use or something like that. But when it comes to Kenya, we are using it. And the sad thing is that the farmers on the ground do not know. Like, I will give you an example. During the December holidays, I went on an excursion in my village. I come from Budalangi. And I went looking around at the agrovet shops. So because I know the active ingredients. You
went looking for the ingredients?
For the active ingredients. And I can tell you, it only took me 1 second to buy a product that had a carcinogenic active ingredient. I went there and I told them, I want something to control pests on my farm. And the lady told me, I meant weevils in my maize. And she told me, you can take this.
And you checked the ingredients?
And I checked the ingredients. And I could actually see, I could see permethrin. And I was like, goodness, how many farmers who have no idea of the harmful active ingredients contained in those products expose themselves to these risks each and every day.
Do the people at the agrovets know, the ones who are actually selling them at the retail centers, do they know this? Or
I don't think they know that.
did you confront the agrovet and ask them?
No, I didn't confront the agrovet, but what I did is that I went on an education mission, like educating the locals about the impacts of these chemicals. Wow. So once you tell them this chemical, they're likely to avoid it. Okay. But when you confront the agrovet, it's all about money. It's business for them. It's all about money. So you'll confront them. They'll bring a different product that has the same ingredient. But then they'll tell you, oh, this is a different product. But when you're keen enough and look at the active ingredient, you'll find that these are some of the active ingredients that are not supposed to be used in food production.
The board that you mentioned, you call it the PC what?
PCPB, Pest Control and Products Board.
Are they aware also?
They are actually aware.
Or is it because we know sometimes when you approach a government agency, watasema mikono yetu imefungwa. Sisi tunaambiwa tulete hii, tunaleta hii. Ama tunaambiwa tukubalie hii, tunakubalia. Our hands are tied. Have you confronted them? Have you asked them? Are they aware of this, banned products?
Yes, they are aware. About 2 years ago, I was on a live discussion like this with the CEO, the then CEO of PCPB, and we're actually having a discussion about some of those banned products. And to just add on that, there's a petition that was tabled in Parliament by Honorable Gladys Bose-Chalet on behalf of various civil society organizations to have these products banned in Kenya for use in Kenya, because there's scientific evidence to show that these products are actually carcinogenic. Some of them are mutagens and they're not supposed to be used.
Yes.
Yes, and most of them, the sad thing is that they don't end up on the crops alone. No, you go and buy tomatoes and you think these pesticides are just on the crops alone.
Yes.
No, they find their way into the soil. They leach. Yes. They find their way into the soil and water.
But now that you've mentioned the tomatoes, if I take my tomatoes and I wash them, they are safe, right?
No. No, they're not.
I've washed off the chemical that was on top.
No, you cannot wash off the chemical. It's impossible to wash off the chemical. It actually gets stuck.
Yes.
Some of them actually get into the crops. So if they are going into the soil, the crops will
take them up as nutrients.
Will take it up as nutrients,
Right.
And there's also something that's called the chemical properties of these pesticides. So if it's soluble, then it can easily be found in water. It can easily be found in the soil. So its chemical properties depends on how it's going to be absorbed by the plants, or how it's going to be, its movement in the soil and its movement in water.
So how prevalent then are these chemicals that we're using? Are they found in almost every product that we're using nowadays, in terms of the tomatoes and the sukuma wiki, the cabbages and so on and so forth? And are they found all over Kenya, or are they specific to regions?
They're actually found all over Kenya. If I found it in my village, trust me, they're found all over Kenya. And I can tell you that because recently there's an organization, Kenya Organic Agriculture Network. Yeah. They did a study about last year, I believe. They did a study, and the study found that the tomatoes from Murang'a counties had the highest amount of pesticide residues.
Wow.
So if that's Murang'a, and then I also found that in my village, then it means they are actually found everywhere in Kenya.
So you want to tell me all these ndomas that we're eating here, they're just poisonous?
If the farmers grow them with harmful chemicals, yes, they are.
And you can walk into any agrovet. We have a couple down Kijabe Street. Chances are, if I walk now to Kijabe Street to buy a fertilizer, it might, or a pesticide for that matter, might be having some of these banned products.
Yes.
So we are eating poison every day, basically.
Yes.
That is what you're saying right now.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. We're eating poison every day. But it's not all gloomy. There's a solution. We have to rethink of ways in which we produce our foods. So
getting out to that, solutions, how do we, what are we supposed to use? Because clearly farmers are using all these pesticides. It means that probably they are the best, and chances are we don't have alternatives.
We have to move to sustainable farming practices.
Such as?
We have practices such as ecological farming, organic farming. We have practices such as permaculture. All these are farming practices.
Permaculture?
permaculture.
Permaculture.
Yes, and I will talk about ecological farming because I come from an agroecology background. Ecological farming, for example, from the Bitter Harvest documentary, we saw one of the farmers who is an ecological farmer and the way in which he was producing his food. So ecological farming looks at a healthy farming way, whereby you don't contaminate your soil, you don't contaminate the water,
right,
and you don't add any chemical inputs to the soil and water in the process of food production.
Right.
And it just doesn't stop at that. It also does not encourage the use of genetically engineered seeds. The reason it does not encourage the use of genetically engineered seeds is that we want to enhance biodiversity. We want biodiversity to thrive on farms. So we encourage farmers who are going into ecological farming to use indigenous seeds, the seeds our grandparents used to use to grow food.
But someone would think then GMO seeds are safe because some of them are resistant to, you know, like the BT cotton, for instance, is resistant to the worms. We have others that are, you know, GMO plants that can grow in arid areas and so on and so forth. Wouldn't you want to encourage GMO seeds?
Of course not. I would not encourage GMO seeds.
Are they carcinogenic in any way? Apart from the fact that you want to encourage biodiversity in the farms, but sasa tukianza kufikiria venye tunakula poison, is it not safe to just have genetically modified seeds that are actually natural, well, not natural, but are actually safer to use?
You find that most of the hybrid seeds that I use, for example, maize, most of them are coated with a pesticide. Yes, if you go to buy certain hybrid maize seeds, you find that they're coated with a pesticide. So when you're growing this maize, remember the pesticide either stays in your soil or gets absorbed by your crops.
Okay.
So the safest way is for you to use indigenous seeds. Someone might argue and say that indigenous seeds are not drought resistant. But when you think about it, the millet that our great-grandfathers used to grow is drought resistant. When you think about some of the maize or the cassava or the sweet potatoes that we used to grow, those indigenous seeds, the seeds that have acclimatized to our weather conditions, those are the seeds that we should be growing. And it's just not about the seeds that have acclimatized to our weather conditions, but we're also looking at reducing the amount of money farmers spend on buying seeds. So the GMO seeds you speak of, the hybrid seeds you speak of, farmers have to keep buying them each and every planting season. They cannot save them.
You can't harvest them from...
No, you can't harvest them. Remember, a while ago, there were farmers, the maize farmers were complaining that the amount of inputs they use when it comes to maize production is very high. So they cannot sell their maize at such lower prices. And it all goes down to the price of seeds, the price of chemical fertilizers, and chemical pesticides. So when we try to eliminate the three, we teach farmers how to use indigenous seeds. You use them this season and you save them for the next season. And you don't use chemical pesticides. We have various ways in which you can control pests on our farms through ecological farming.
Like chasing them away?
No, we don't chase them away, of course not. We have scientific ways in which we can control pests. We've got biopesticides. Do you know Mwarubaine?
Yes, yes, yes.
Do you know that Mwarubaine can actually be used in pest control?
Now I know.
Yeah. So we have various ways, various practices like crop rotation, all of that, mixed cropping, usage of herbs to control pesticides.
Thank you very much, Claire. I feel like I'm in a class now and probably should have more of these sessions. Thank you very much. We'll definitely get in touch with Greenpeace Africa Food Campaign, an interesting title there, but asante tena sana. Earlier on, we did ask you on this International Women's Day, who do you rather celebrate on this International Women's Day and why? Let's